Welcome to part 4 of the Draw This Halloween special. In this episode, we're going to draw a vampire building off of the skull that we created in the last episode. It's easy to draw a face if you know the planes of the face and the underlying structure of the skull. So we have our skull on a new layer. We're going to turn down the opacity of it, and we're going to use mirror painting mode to create a sketch. I'm going to use a couple of horizontal guides to place the ears. Those will be located on the eyebrows and the bottom of the nose. Then I'm going to sketch in the rest of the face using the underlying structure from the skull as a reference. I'm going to add a neck, and then I'm going to start adding some shading. I like to start with dark first because it helps establish the structure and form of the face. So I'm just blocking in some dark. I added a new layer for some midtones, and then now I'm going to darken the whole piece so that my highlights stand out. I'm creating layers as needed. I'm separating the light layers from the dark layers. Our light source is coming from above center, so I'm trying to light everything that way. And I'm working from broad to fine, so I'm going to block in things and then I'm going to tighten them up. I hid my sketch because we don't need that anymore. Then I'm just going to continue blocking in to develop the form. Once I've blocked things in, I'm going to smooth it out a little bit using the diffuse blur blender. You want there to be a nice balance of sharp versus smooth. So to sharpen, you're going to use the pinch brush. And that kind of pulls the pixels together and sharpens them. It's a lot of back and forth sharpening and blending. I'm going to detail the mouth just a little bit to kind of make it stand out and add some highlights to the teeth and fix the lip. It's the good thing about working digitally is you can just kind of go at it and then make corrections as needed. I'm going to add a little bit of texture and contour by using some fine lines. And then here and there I'm just going to add a little more detail, adding a little more light just to add more texture and to brighten the head. Since our light's coming from the top, that's where we want most of our light area to be. And I'm going to blend again. The eyes were too dark, so I'm going to lighten them a little bit and add some more details to them. And if I need to reshape the features, I'm going to use the pinch brush or lighten or darken as needed. I'm going to darken the mouth. Adding dark pushes things away from you, and adding light pulls them towards you. I'm just going to reshape things a little bit more using the pinch. And then I'm going to turn mirror painting mode off so that I can add some asymmetrical shading. I'm going to add some more light that's not even on both sides, and just kind of try to make things look a little more balanced. I'm going for sort of an old film or old photo look, kind of like Nosferatu, and I'm going to be hunting for mistakes at this point, just trying to tighten everything up and make it look a little bit cleaner and more professional. I'm going to add little fine details and wrinkles. And then once I'm done doing that, I'm going to add some texture with the sponge, mask off a little bit of it, and add some texture to the background too by blending it with the coarse oily blender. Now I'm just going to brighten the subject to try to make the skin glow a little bit. I'll mask off a little bit of that brightening and restore some of the shadows. And then here and there I'm going to tighten up more details. I created a duplicate of the layer and then changed it to an overlay blend mode and blended it a little bit. And that kind of gave it a nice soft glow effect. Went ahead and dropped all my layers and created another duplicate, and I'm going to soften that using effects focus to add some focal blur. So on that duplicate layer I'm going to just blur it, and then I'm going to create a mask on that duplicate layer, and I'm going to use black with the airbrush, a big airbrush, to go ahead and mask out some of that blur. So it looks like the focus is being drawn into the center of the subject, and everything moving away from it in three-dimensional space is getting more blurry. Just gives you kind of more of a photographic look, and I like that in my portraits. So I think that's starting to look pretty good. Let's add a little bit more texture here and there, just to the background and everything else, just to give it a little more character. And then I'm going to balance out the contrast by creating another duplicate and choosing tonal control equalize. And equalize works pretty well if you just click the auto set button. It'll just balance out your lights and darks. And I think that looks pretty good. I'm going to drop all again. Let's add a little bit of a sepia tone to make it look more like an old photograph. I'm going to create a new layer for tone, make a multiply composite method from it, and I'm just going to fill it with kind of a peach color using the fill command. I might lighten that a little bit and desaturate it just to get the right color. I think that looks pretty good. Let's balance the contrast out just a little bit more by adding some lighter area. And I'm going to just lighten and darken as needed. I'm going to use the pinch brush and add some asymmetry here and there to the eyes and both sides of the face. Then I'm going to make the vampire look a little more dead by making its eyes a little bit lighter. So I think this is starting to look pretty good. Let's add a few more fine lines here and there around the edges just to kind of tighten things up. And I'm going to add some little light speckles here and there on the forehead and the nose and the cheeks to make the skin look oily. I'll add a little more sepia tone and a final equalize filter, and I think we have a finished vampire. If you enjoyed this episode of Draw This, take a quick second to like this video and share it with your friends on YouTube and on Facebook, and don't forget to click the subscribe button to see my new videos as they're released. I'll see you next Tuesday for a new episode of Draw This.